Today I am sitting here with members of the Foundry USA, have Edmond and Norman. Gentlemen, we'd like to know a little bit about exactly what happens at the Foundry and why you think it's important.
Well, the Foundry was started by myself and Norman 2 years ago. We found each other through an organization called the Alternatives to Violence Project, which has been around for about 30 years. It started in New York after the Attica prison riots, and as a means to address violence and alternatives to acting out in violent ways. It's basically a conflict resolution workshop, and these have been going on in prisons nationwide. Actually, it's an international organization now. They did some work in Rwanda with restorative justice. It's a circle process whereby the inmates and the facilitators get together and try to, well, it's hard to explain in a pithy way to do it justice. But anyways, Norman and I found each other working through the Alternatives to Violence Project. We're both certified facilitators. And it's with these gentlemen that we want to work with after they're released in the Foundry, our organization, which started 2 years ago. It's a 501c nonprofit organization. And through the Foundry, we hope to establish these men with a residence, job training, sobriety if needed, and also to continue with the AVP ethos in life outside of a correctional institution. So it's basically AVP for the 21st century. We want to bring it to the next level. Whereas AVP focuses on their behavior inside, we're going to take it from outside and beyond. And hopefully so they don't have to go back inside. That's the key.
Norman, can you give me some of your perspectives as to why this program is beneficial?
It's been my experience. I am a convicted felon, and it's my experience. A lot of the people that I know are felons. That the biggest impediment to successful transition into acceptable social life is housing and employment. Once you start filling out applications and they ask for a criminal history and you answer it in a positive manner, then the doors are shut for you automatically. I've known so many men that come out or even starting inside that really, honestly, want to change. They want an opportunity to redevelop, to reconnect, to rejoin society. But when they come out, that badge, that stigma that we have as being felons, it blocks so many avenues for re-entry. And for 35 years that I know of, and I've been involved in social activity for most of my life since I was a teenager, so that's over 40 years. It seems that people have always been waiting for someone to come rescue us. And I'm tired of waiting for somebody to show up. So I've taken my money, Edmond's time, and my time, and I'm doing it myself. Okay? I want the Foundry USA to be self-reliant. I mean, that doesn't mean we won't accept help if it's offered. But if felons are to make a mark out here in society, a society that doesn't seem to want us or accept us, then we're going to have to do it on our own. Nobody's going to come rescue us. Nobody's going to roll out a red carpet and say, "Welcome back, fellas." We're going to have to find a way out here on our own. We're going to have to be self-supportive. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give the guys a place where they can come home, a dignified place to live. And, you know, it's not rat-infested or roach-filled or crumbling. It's not a slumland type thing. I want a comfortable environment for these guys to come home from. A place where they can have a sense of pride, dignity, okay? Because you got a guy that doesn't have any place to live. He's literally living in a shelter or sleeping under a bridge or doing the best he can. He's sleeping in some condition where he's got to compromise all his morals and values to have just a roof over his head. There's no impediment for him to remain law-abiding. You know, most guys, they feel like, well, the worst that can happen is I get arrested. And if I get arrested, that means I don't have to sleep in this pigsty. They'll take me back to jail. The jail cell is clean. I'll get 3 meals. And the best thing that can happen is I can get away with it, and then I can change my environment myself. Well, I want to give guys a chance where they don't have to shake the dice. Yeah. Where you don't have to gamble. I want to give them a transitional time. It's 9 months. Give you 9 months in a clean environment. Okay, you have to have a job to come to us, right? Because what we're offering now is housing. We want to offer, we're trying to open up a boarding house. And the guy will come in, he's got a furnished room, shared kitchen, shared living, some shared arrangements. But he's got his own room. He's got a key to his door, some privacy, and it's a dignified place to live, and it's a start. And hopefully his next adjustment will be better. Do you know what I mean? If I give you a decent and clean place to live, when you leave me, I'm hoping that you'll find some place better than what we showed you. And there's a chance that we may be able to get involved in that. Because for felons, it's infinitely easier to buy property than it is to rent. Most guys don't know that.
Norman,
yes.
Tell me briefly, in retrospect, how would your experience coming out of incarceration have been different if something like Foundry USA was around for you?
When I came out of the Foundry, I went into a single room-only hotel situation. But I wasn't the typical convict. Because while I was inside, I worked and I saved money. I came home with about $1,400, which was enough for me to establish myself with a place to live and clothes, transportation, and food. Okay, which is something that most guys don't come home with. Excuse me, my understanding now, the guys come home with $500. Now, with $500, you kind of got some choices to make. You can either get a place to live, you either try to get some transportation, or you can feed yourself. But you can't do them all. Right? So now, God's faced with an immediate dilemma. An immediate dilemma. I was fortunate. I wasn't faced with that because of the choices I made while I was inside. Now in AVP, we talk about these choices that men are making while they're inside. Because we actually go into the prisons and talk to people. Right? And these are some of the things we talk about. Is, are you thinking about what's going to happen on that day when they open that door? Are you making any plans? Are you making any adjustments inside before your release? Most people don't think about that while they're inside. They're busy trying to medicate or forget about the stress and the pain of being incarcerated. So it's problematic.
Edmond, you briefly mentioned the Alternative to Violence program. Can you give me a little bit about the history and how this program came to be around?
Well, in 1971, there was the Attica prison riots, in which about 39 people were killed by the New York State Police. Prisoners took over the prison, took hostages. There was about, aside from the 39 dead, nearly 80 severely wounded. It took something like that to get the attention of the powers that be. And so the Society of Friends, the Quakers, in upstate New York, went into Attica Prison, which is now called Green Haven, and worked with some of the inmates and asked them, what do you think would work? How can we address this problem? Violence, acting out this way. And so it was pretty much designed by and for felons. And it's a program that has been pretty successful, pretty powerful in giving men the tools that they would need in order to go through life without having short triggers, the kind of patterns that lead to violent outbreaks. It can be a very complicated thing. So the program helps to deconstruct that and help them understand it. It imparts in them an ethos of humanism, and the tools are very useful. But where we would come in is to show them what value these tools could have, how to apply them in everyday life. So that's where we would pick up where AVP has left off. So, AVP is great, giving them tools how to live nonviolently. Not to say pacifist, but how to be able to have more control over your emotions and impulses. And some of these tools need to be, they're like skills. They need to be developed. And we would continue to have AVP sessions outside of jail in community workshops.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit about how the Foundry USA will address some of the sort of systemic and intrinsic problems that ex-offenders are facing when they come out, and not only that, but some of the problems that they face while they're on the inside as well. What sort of overall long-term sort of change can some of the program hope to see?
Can I feel that?
Absolutely.
Like I was speaking about the dignity of life, the quality of life. Again, if we're talking about AVP practitioners, guys who are practicing AVP while they're inside, then they've already got a taste of this kind of information, this kind of mindset. But when we start talking about people on the outside, if we can give them or give people a sense of value in what they have achieved or what they have, then I trust that they are less likely to gamble with it. All right? If a man who doesn't have anything has nothing to lose, but if you have a dignified place to live, you're comfortable in your surroundings, then I'm hoping that you will think twice about, well, wait a minute, I can either, for lack of a better term, go for this, or I can go for that. And it's like, but if you don't have a this,
that's right.
Okay, so, and that's what we're trying to do. If we provide people with a this, then maybe they have a different place to start from. Okay, you're not so destitute, you're not so desperate, you're not so down on yourself. You don't feel like such a loser. If you have nothing, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, but if you have nothing and everybody around you, you perceive that everybody around you has more than you do, then there's a certain sense of desperation sets in. Yeah. And at that point, you start making decisions that aren't always in our best interest. But first of all, now the guys that come to us have to be working. Okay, because right now, we can't provide people with jobs. We don't have those kind of connections. Right? But if you got a job and you okay, and if a felon is lucky enough to find a job, okay, now I still got the problem of finding someplace to live. Okay, we can take that off the table. We can give you a clean, decent place to live. Okay, now that you've got that, you got a job, you got a decent place to live, you can relax. Okay? Now you can start to think about what's your next plan. You can start to make a plan. Think about it. Who can wage a valiant effort without a firm foundation?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we in the Foundry are offering. Edmond was the one who came up with the name, and he said, well, what we'll be doing is essentially taking raw material of men who are just raw material and helping mold them into useful and productive members of society. which is what we do in foundries. As we take raw materials and we make stuff that's of use, plowshares.
Very insightful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.